Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Plain Poem, Amish, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, FE Patriot on the level, Thomas van der Zander, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Melby Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Hello.
Hello.
Morning, Nathan.
What job? You had a case of insomnia or something?
If I have to say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I don't mind. It's just a reference point so I can use it to test microphones, Neil. Right? Make sense?
Oh, okay. I was like, what the heck?
Morning, guys. You got the new mic today, Nathan?
I've got several new mics. So I've got currently 5 microphones. I've got an Audio-Technica AT2020. I've got a Neumann. I think it's called a TLM 705 or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have a look in a second. I've also got a boom mic that I've been using for years on the show. I've just yesterday got a Violet Design Finger, gold finger, and a M Audio Transformer Balance massive diaphragm mic, condenser mic. So I've got several new mics and I want to pick which one best suits my scenario. Now they're all very different types and styles of mics, and they're all very different in terms of what they do. So the Audio-Technica and the M Audio condenser mics are both cardioid. The Neumann is a hypercardioid. My shotgun mic's a supercardioid, but because it's in a what would you call it, interference tube, it's got a low bar pattern. And the one I'm using now is possibly the most interesting, which is wide cardioid, otherwise known as subcardioid, which means it's slightly more directional than omnidirectional, right? So omni means completely any direction you talk into it sounds the same. It's no rear ejection. This has got a little bit of rear ejection, but is omni. So it's completely the other end of the scale to what I typically run the show with, which is a shotgun mic with a low bar pattern. This is about as wide as it gets without being omnidirectional. So it should sound very, very different. So yes, to answer your question.
I got an idea. Do an hour each mic. That'll put out a 5-hour show. 5 more hours.
No. What I'll do is what I did with the Neumann, which is use it for 2 or 3 days, or maybe a week, or maybe indefinitely if I really like it, and then figure out what it is about it that I do or don't like, and then put it on eBay, right? That's what I did with the Neumann anyway.
That's an even better idea.
Which is what I told the people I bought them off, actually. I'm like, look, I don't actually have a need for this mic, but I do want to fiddle with it. Therefore, I want to pay you peanuts for it. And if you say, no, I don't care, I'll just move on. And I've done that quite a few times until eventually someone's obviously desperate enough to get rid of whatever microphone they've got that's of high value to general everyday Joe that might be interested in it. But to me, it's of almost no value if they say, no, I'm not giving you for peanuts. But occasionally they'll say, yes, I'll give you my really nice boutique microphone in the case of the one I'm using today for peanuts because they want rid. It just means I get to try them, and at worst case scenario, I won't lose anything. If I put them back on eBay for what I've paid for them, someone would snap them up in the same way I did after haggling hard to get them to those prices. So I can easily turn them around for what I paid for them if need be. Ideally, I'd make a small profit on all of them, but you know what I mean. I can use them, figure out if I like them. This one looks beautiful. There's no other words for it. It looks outstanding. So it's got a bit like on my speakers, which have got a tube on the back of the treble unit called a Nautilus tube. This one's got a tube on the back of the capsule that's a similar sort of thing. It looks like a trumpet. But the guy who made these mics was a jeweler, and it really shows because the thing is just beautiful. It's something to behold, it really is. Should really put my lights on and put it on camera as I'm waffling on about it. But I'm having loads of fun with these new mics to figure out what I want. And I'm sure I said yesterday, but I've got what's it called? Soyez, which is a Russian manufacturer. Hopefully their UK distributor will get in touch with me and provide me with one of their FET mics. So ideally what I want is a large diaphragm in a small tube, which is like, I want the impossible. Well, yeah, I'm really fussy and I do generally want things that don't exist. When it comes to stuff like this, I'm always finding myself wanting that thing that doesn't exist yet. Well, in this case, it does actually exist. So there's a tube that's just a very wide tube, a bit like this one. This is, believe it or not, a lot wider than the mic I was previously using, which is quite narrow. So maybe you can see that on camera. But Soyez make a 22 or 25, I can't remember what an inch is now in millimetres. I think it's 22 millimetre, or 22.4 I think is an inch, and they make a 22 millimetre diaphragm small pencil condenser. So strictly speaking, it's a large diaphragm condenser. Well, anyway, they'll hopefully get in touch, the UK distributor that is, and let me borrow one of their mics so I can compare it to what we're listening to now, which is a Violet Design Goldfinger, that's what it's called, which is a small diaphragm pencil condenser, and I think it's 14 millimetre diaphragm. Anyway, so that's all I'll waffle about it for now. I'll be using this for the next 2 or 3 days probably. So let me know what it sounds like. I would like comments on it. I genuinely do want people to comment and say, actually, I hate that. It makes you sound really sibilant, or it's too bright, or whatever. If you've got an opinion on it, I do want to hear it.
Have you had more than one viewer in the last 6 months, Nathan? New viewer?
More than one new viewer? Of course.
Morons.
Why'd you ask?
Get this idiot Fortunate Son going around saying that. He's only had one new viewer in the last 6 months that isn't a troll. I'm like, that's not even true.
Why does he care?
Obviously, we're over the target. You're going to ruffle a lot of people the wrong way. So they got to set out to have, untrue statements.
Yeah, they're getting closer to cope, I suppose. Maybe it's because of the whole McToon meltdown, where he's shut your channel, shut your. Well, rather than shut your channel, shut your, nothing's changed, which must drive them absolutely bonkers to begin with. But not only has nothing changed, it's like, I'm still showing growth. Even according to this troll, I've grown by 1. You're like, okay, according to you, fine. But by even your own pathetically low standards that you want to presumably scorn me with, you're saying I've grown. Okay. Yeah, that's all I look for. I pay very close attention to my stats and I look for growth. Yeah, well, thanks, troll. According to you, I'm still growing. Yeah, so completely unsuccessful on behalf of Toon's objective to get me shut your channel, shut your... Or Bob, the science guy, is currently on a bit of a campaign to get people to unsubscribe from me. Okay, no worries. I don't care. In that regard, sometimes I don't care about the subscriber count. If it was going down, obviously I'd put positive spin on it. But as it's not, I can say this with sincerity, right? It isn't that important when you've got a good community. I've reached a point some time ago, actually, where I've got a really strong community around me. Now, it ebbs and flows. People come and go, don't get me wrong. Some people become part of that community more than they were previously when we knew them 5 years ago, and they stepped away. So you're like, is that person new? No. But people still come and go from within the community, and it is a community now. So am I dependent on the growth? Not necessarily. It's still something I look at daily. And if there's something going wrong, as opposed to a campaign by several people in a trip to Antarctica, in an attempt to shut your channel, obviously I'm going to look and go, well, every bugger that is my enemy that wants to unsubscribe, when demanded to do so, or suggested, let's just say, to do so by whoever is suggesting it, will most likely do exactly that. Okay, so we'll get less of you assholes. Oh, good, thanks. Hey, Bob, yeah, keep it up. Don't let it bug you, Neil. That's the
Shut
truth.
your channel shut. Just as you diverted to the measurements.
You tried to divert to measurements. What a brilliant line. You tried to divert to measurements. We had pseudoscience getting you shut your channel. Pay attention to the pseudoscience.
Did you hear about the asteroid that's going to hit in 2032?
I think we should get Bruce Willis on it immediately. If Ben Affleck's available, I'd suggest we contact him too. Liv Tyler's around. Maybe Morgan Freeman can get involved, but he'd be a separate entity, of course.
Yeah, because that was a different movie. But that's
a separate entity, separate commission.
They immediately go to the history of asteroids, and don't you know they wiped out the dinosaur 68 million years ago, a billion, whatever it is.
Oh man, don't be telling me this. When we get to that bit in the book, that still exists, right? We've gone past it and we're doing other stuff now. But there's a big chunk of red text in the book specifically about this that I've already conceded in my mind that I don't want in there because it takes away from the reference nature of the book. Now, it's relevant. It's kind of the moment, talking about Harry Stamper and Billy Bob Thornton talking about global killers. I mean, it's so appropriate for now. It's so tempting to leave it in. I'm still going to put my foot down when we get there, Neil, if you're involved when Flatsy's doing her do.
Yeah, I think it should be in there because it always comes up and it is relevant. Although it's not as... I mean, yeah, we got a solid reference book, but there are some stories that we could leave in.
Yeah, it's just so pseudoscience-y though, isn't it? It's just... We'll see how it flows. If it flows into it and it naturally seems to be in place and not stick out like a sore thumb, then it'll stay in. You know, I'm not... Obviously, it's not been taken out yet. It's in red text that's like, we need to pay very close attention to whether or not this should be here when we get to it. But me taking apart some psychological aspects with demonstrable evidence in the form of, you know, Armageddon, the movie, in terms of, you know, it is what it is. It's telling you that you could die. So it's nothing other than fear-based mind control in that regard when you know the magic trick, i.e. we're not on a spinning ball flying around the sun. So therefore, what else can it be? And I'm evidencing it with the example. So it's sound enough to be in there. It just... I can just imagine reading it in 30 years' time and people going, ugh, Armageddon. I don't know. We'll see how it seems when we come to it with Flatsy.
Well, it's obvious we're taking a piss out of it. So, I mean, I don't think it's that bad. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, right?
Right.
You know, Adam did get in touch with me yesterday. He's like, why, are you guys together? I'm like, well, everybody just left, but we were waiting on you. I don't think he knew that we were supposed to do the book yesterday.
Adam? Oh. Oh, well. Oh, well. We'll just find out when we're doing it next and get it done. There's something else I need to speak to him about on a slightly different book-related but unrelated issue. now the boring stuff after that starts kicking in as well, the actual publication of the thing. I hope the guy doesn't listen. If Chuck's listening and goes, boring stuff? How dare you?
Well, it's getting close, getting exciting. I can't wait, to be honest. Practicing my signature.
Very good, Neil. The other thing I've had to do is take the gate off. So I've typically got a gate very, very, very light on me that cuts off the mic, just in case I forget to put myself on mute. The problem being, if I start muttering, it will cut off the last thing I say if I get too quiet on the last thing I say. So for whatever reason, Voice Meter Banana Gate's too strong, even at the very, very lowest setting, which is 0.1. It still cuts me off. So it's like, so I've got to be really vigilant with my own mute button, which is annoying. The other thing I'm testing for, I'm just making mental notes when I come back and assess this at a later date, which I will. I need to assess when I'm with my mic open and talking, as much as it's amusing to the audience when they can hear somebody rumpusing, right, that's what we're talking about. From a technical perspective, it's quite hard to actually keep that within the recording. What do I mean by that? Well, as I monitor the sound, there's a certain amount of spill. That is to say, no matter what I do, if there's a microphone in the room, no matter how much I treat it, unless I made it in an anechoic chamber, stuff bounces off the walls. And when it does, it can make it back into the microphone, which means that if I'm listening to my monitoring setup and having a discussion with someone, and in the middle of a sentence someone talks, if I can hear it, strictly speaking, so can the mic. But because it's coming from behind it, I can mitigate that with the pattern, the polar pattern of the mic, right? But it still spills in to a certain degree. Now, I obviously can't stop that from happening. There's no real way around that to keep me in a position where I can run the show for 4 hours. That is to say, at some point I need to get up and go and get a drink, and I still need to be able to hear the show and what's going on from almost anywhere in the building as I move around to do things. So if something goes on, I need to be able to be all over it. Or if it goes quiet, I need to be back in my seat going, oh, thanks for not talking. You know what I mean? So there's certain practicalities to the way I run the show. But if somebody rumpuses me, their spill will get into my feed. Now, depending on how loud that spill is, will either make it sound awful to the point where it's literally unlistenable, or it's low enough to the point where you can actually make both people out. Now, this may not be interesting to people who are watching from a technical point of view, but to me, it's a pain in the arse because you've got to balance it just so that it's listenable when I'm talking and somebody else is talking. Now, I shouldn't laugh about this, but when people are talking about my mute button, you're like, it's funny because it's like, oh, right, you think it's as crude as having a button? You're like, what are you talking about? I've got gates and compressors and limiters and EQ and desks and multiple gain stages and multiple different virtual lines coming into the... You're like, you having me on mute button? How dare you demean what I do with assuming it's a single button? You know what I mean? There's a lot goes into it. And balancing, this is my point, balancing it so that you can actually hear the opponent while they're talking through me. You can get what they're saying through the top of me is important, right? In other words, I'm working hard so you can hear them rumpusing me, as stupid as that may sound. Now, yesterday... I will round this point out eventually. QE was like, oh, Nathan sometimes doesn't hear who's rumpusing him and will ascribe blame to the wrong person. I'm like, what? So while I'm in the middle of speaking, when someone talks straight through the middle of me, I can't immediately, as I'm trying to focus on the words coming out my bleeding mouth, focus on which sod is interrupting me at that specific moment. But from the recording point of view, QE can discern that it's a different person. Do you see what I'm saying? I've got it to that point where you can still hear it. I'm talking, my mic's open, the monitors are still coming in. You can hear my wife grounding the coffee right now, right? There's stuff spilling in, but you can still make it out in the recording. It's audible. Make sense?
Totally.
So that's what I'm testing for today with this mic. How much spill, when I've got my mic wide open, does it have, and how awful, how badly does that colour the sound? Does it make it unlistenable when there's rumpusing going on? Because if it does, then that just means people will tune out. At the point that it's audible chaos, people go, I don't like this, I can't, it's grating, I'm going to tune out. Whereas if they can hear both parties talking relatively clearly, even though they're both talking at the same time, and they can make out what obfuscation tactics being put to me by my opponent, then they're engaged with the content and they want to hear what happens next. But there's a fine line between it being audible and it being grating and horrible and making people tune out. So I'm just giving people an idea of what my objectives are when they're like, why are you fiddling with mics? You just, is it just audio masturbation? Well, to a degree it is, yes. But also there is an objective.
I like that you're a perfectionist.
Well, I'm basically an AV nerd, aren't I? When I'm doing stuff like this, which there is that running through my veins. So, that's what I studied at college. I am interested in it. The only thing that I'm unfamiliar with at the moment, which I'm quite excited about, is the large diaphragm condenser mic. So when I did a bit of media studies or media training, whatever you want to call it, at college, it wasn't really music studio-based recording that I was doing. It was more like location recordings. So boom mics and shotgun mics and things like that were much more akin to the equipment that I'm familiar with, as opposed to what they use in music recording studios, which is large diaphragm condensers. So I've never had one. I bought my daughter one, but it's not really a large diaphragm. The 2020 is just a cheap mic that happens to be a condenser with a diaphragm inside it. But I've actually got something with a massive capsule on it, something that they put in mics that cost a couple of grand and have valves on them. You know what I mean? In other words, a really good capsule. Well, not really good, because it's actually quite cheap, but you know what I mean? It's big, and it's used on expensive mics sometimes. Thank you, Hun. That was my wife. I was calling Hun, not you, the audience. She bought me coffee.
I was just going to say, what'd you get, your cup of coffee?
I did! In my Flat Earth Social mug. So, yeah.
Well, hold on. If anybody would go back to maybe say you don't even have to go that far back, but I'd say go back to 2017 and listen to some of the shows and then listen to a new show, you will see a big difference in sound.
Sure. But that's down to the room. So now we're talking about subtle differences. Once the room's treated, the difference between mics, I would say, because there's such a massive difference between the three mics, that reminds me I must do a small plug before we go live, specifically my members. The mics that I've just put up, there's 3 member videos of the 3 different mics. I even put it up as a short, so if you are a member of the public and happen to be listening to this whenever, one of my shorts videos, that's only 60 seconds long, has all 3 mics back to back. The ones that literally I'm considering using for the next 5 years, potentially. Or, if I like them, getting a variation that's a bit more practical. Let's just put it that way. So I do actually genuinely want my members to tell me which mic they think sounds best. Because in spite of any impracticality, I can normally work around that, right? So based on that, I've put out a video for each of the mics that's just me going through the Faithless Insomnia lyrics back to back on each mic, so that I can hear what they sound like, right? Now, from a point of view of setup, I know the shotgun mic best, so in a way it's kind of set up the best. The other ones are a bit rough and ready because I don't know them very well. But like I say, I want to get an idea of what people actually think of them. So in terms of my membership, please go and check out those 3 videos and just say what you do or don't like about the sound. Hey, Flatsy.
Am I supposed to remind you of something with EQ?
I'd already done it. I did remember. I was up till about 2 a.m. fiddling with these microphones, just playing and laughing my head off when I was playing with the studio mic, the large diaphragm condenser. I just kept on. I just found it very amusing. The whole process was just a laugh because it's wrong in so many ways. It's incredibly heavy, and it kept falling out of its shock mount and pulling the boom arm down and weighing everything down, and and it would fall off and dangle off its XLR lead, and everything about it was bad, but it was just good fun. So I was having a laugh while it was going on, and all this stuff's going wrong. So I don't know, using the it's called the Luna. I was just having a good laugh doing it. But anyway, there's a a realistic call to action still needing to be rounded out, which is if you are a member, check out those 3 videos. Alternatively, there's just a shorts video that does have one little section of each of those 3 videos back to back with 2 or 3 lyrics, so you can just hear the differences between them. But it won't be as subtle because they're very different mics. So you should hear a difference, but realistically, in a treated space, if set up correctly, you shouldn't really hear a great deal of difference between any given mics if it's set up correctly, right? The space makes a much bigger difference than the mic. Anyway.
Nathan, did you just call me Flatsy?
I thought you were Flatsy.
Let's get it on.
Good morning.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, it's good to be here. An evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge. That's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Refraction.
Did you say refraction?
Yeah, I showed someone the Black Swan yesterday, and he said I don't understand refraction. And when I asked him if the horizon's refracted, then it's not geometric. He refused to answer me after about an hour of me asking him. Typical stuff.
Yeah, these idiots didn't understand it in 2020 and they don't understand it in 2025. The moment you bark refraction, you lose. You no longer have a geometric horizon. They're idiots. They won't get it in another 5 years. Neil was right. We all said, how long will it be before they realise that refraction destroys their paradigm? And I was like, I'll take maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months. Q is like, nah, yeah, at least a year, probably a couple of years. Neil was like, they'll never get it. Ever. Right, Neil?
That's correct. I was correct on that. They still won't get it. They never will.
Maybe. Well, it's been 5 years. They're still gurking refraction.
Well, no. Well, if they get it, they have to concede then. So that's why they won't get it. They don't want to get it.
Absolutely.
So I would like to know how the audio sounds today, so I'm trying out a new microphone. New to me, it's actually about 20 years old. So it's the company that Jay-Z ended up buying and turning into Jay-Z microphones, originally called Violet Design. So this is their small diaphragm condenser, and it is, for want of a better word, absolutely beautiful. Not in terms of its audio performance, but in terms of its visual appearance, it is beautiful. So this designer, I can see why Jay-Z wanted it, was a jeweler. So also worked in medical and created capsules for medical reasons, went on to be a jeweler and then microphones. And then Jay-Z bought him, and now it's disappeared, as far as I'm aware, as of about a couple of months ago, actually. So I got it dirt cheap, because it's about a 20-year-old, maybe 15-year-old example of a Violet Designs microphone. And like I say, I want to see if I can get it to work, first and foremost. So I'll be trying out for the next 2 or 3 days on these live streams. My concern with this particular mic is that I'll get too much spill. That is to say, when I'm talking, if someone's talking at the same time as me, it might sound echoey when they're rumpusing me, as fussy and finicky as that may sound. You mean you're concerned about how bad or good they sound when they're rumpusing you? Yeah, I know people accuse me of just muting them. I know. Anyway, that's enough waffle for the live audience. The people in the pre-show have had it for about 20 minutes straight. So no Earth curve then, just refraction. What about scientific evidence of gravity? No scientific evidence of gravity. I'm surprised. Don't worry if you're watching live, there is something that we're going to be covering today. I should really have done the... I haven't fully set up. I'm so excited about my microphone. I forgot to set up the live stream chat on my live feed. So if someone does super chat, probably won't be able to put it on screen. I'm so sorry. But what I can do is cover a video that Brian Logic has suggested that we cover. He actually suggested it yesterday, but I didn't see his response till today. So, this is Sabine Hosselenfelder, which I've probably spelt wrong, but I will get right now when I cut and paste her name from her channel. As always, please let Sabine know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, as I steal... How did I spell it? Let's just see how far wrong I was, right? What did I put? HOSSELENFELDER is what I got. HOSSEN. Oh, no, EL. Oh, yeah, I did get it wrong. I'm sorry, Sabine. I didn't intentionally get your name right, but wrong, but I'll get it right now. So, yeah, I'll dig out a link in a second so you can all toddle along to Sabine's video to let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get eradicated by the YouTube bots. HOSSEN. Let's get it right. FELD. Is that right? FELDER. And then, would it be apostrophe S for Hosselenfelder's secret? I think it's apostrophe S, I'm going with it. Right, done. Okay, right, let's dig out a link for the audience's benefit. So this is, as always is the case, your opportunity now, and I do mean this sincerely when the link gets posted, to toddle along to Sabine's video in all sincerity and let her know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, so she's made aware that we are covering her video in the politest possible way. Idea being that should she respond and do a video on us, she'd do the same for us and put a link to our video. Obviously massively beneficial if she was to do it, given that she's got millions of subscribers and we are but a tiny flat earth channel. But everybody likes sharing the YouTube algorithmic love. Everybody loves getting more views and more comments, so you will be assisting this particular YouTube videographer in that sense. I've got to say, she looks quite dashing with this. She looks quite pretty for a change.
Are you kidding me?
Did you not think
Did
she
you
looks quite
say the name of the
attractive?
video is Her Secret?
I agree.
Normally she looks quite butch, and in this particular shot she looks quite feminine. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just this camera angle. Maybe it's the lighting. Who knows?
I agree.
I think I can give her a compliment if I so desire. What of it?
Well, because I just put in chat, she won't mind. But
Well,
now
no,
you're
normally-
saying that she looks more feminine? I'd like to see
I
it.
would say so. Anyway, shouldn't really have done that. I'm sure. Oh my God! I hope Paula's not listening to this. Not my wife, Paula, Bible literalist. Bible you. I'm so sorry, Paula. If you're listening back, I know damn well you'll be in the after show modding this and shaking your head. I am so sorry.
To read you an email that I was asked to keep confidential. I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I now believe that reading it to you will go some way to explain why I'm worried about the status of scientific research generally, but especially in the foundations of physics.
Oh, we've already got a rumpus. Me's tree. Miss Tree. Very clever. You're right. Can we help?
Good morning. Are
Morning.
you having a meeting or what?
I run a live
I
show
don't
at this
need
time of
help.
day. I
I
run a
was
live
just
show.
saying good morning.
Hey, it's good to have you. How you doing?
Go on mute.
Don't be rude. How are you doing? Very nice to have you, Miss Tree.
I had a bad headache today. I was just listening. Thank you for asking, though, and I hope y'all have a good day.
Right back at you. What we typically do is cover a video. Not always, but sometimes. And that's what we're doing. So we're covering a lady named Sabine Hosselenfelder.
I received this email about 7 years ago after I published a comment in Nature Physics titled "Science Needs Reason to be Trusted."
That's a straight up reification fallacy, isn't it? Science isn't an entity, and it doesn't require you put trust in it. The method of science is an empirical method that when establishing a cause of a naturally occurring phenomena, you can put this method to use to empirically validate a presumed cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. Now, that outcome is empirical. There's no faith, there's no trust. Now, what she's talking about is putting your faith in pseudoscience spewing nonsense merchants.
In it, I explained how I lost trust in scientific self-correction after I
No, it doesn't self-correct either, right? what happens is you can vary and manipulate that which you assume to cause an effect you observed in nature and see if it caused it or not. If it does, you've empirically validated that which you assume to be the cause as the cause of the effect you observed in nature. That's the scientific method. But what you questioned your trust in its self-correcting ability, it's a method. It doesn't self-correct. You just vary something you think causes an effect and see if it causes it or not. Self-correcting. What the hell is she babbling about?
Realized how much of what's published in the Foundations of Physics is nonsense and continues to be nonsense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree. Well, at least we're agreeing on this statement.
This email came from someone who I've met a few times but don't know in any depth, and who at the time worked at a top institution in the United States. To honor the request of confidentiality, I've removed some details. Hi, Sabina. I'm if you remember me. I'm
Sabina? Oh, we've been saying a name incorrectly. It's very not that often people self-reference. So it's not Sabine, it's Sabina. Oh, okay, we've been saying your name wrong. I'm so sorry.
not using my work email.
Also,
the topic is a bit delicate.
She's using an anonymous source and she's not trustworthy. So as far as I'm concerned, this is all a load of crap.
Oh, you're saying in terms of the it can't be trusted that it's come from somebody high up in US government, and as far as you're concerned,
Yeah,
she's
she's
just
a
made it
liar.
up to self-reference it in this example, right?
Yeah, she's a disingenuous bitch, so I don't trust her.
No swearing. No need.
Sorry.
And I hope that our conversation will remain confidential. I'm contacting you regarding your recent paper in Nature, which made a lot of noise. First of all, congratulations on a nice paper. If you wanted to attract attention, you managed to do this. Actually, I'd like to ask you next time, think not only about short-term personal benefits, but about the community in general. You understand what consequences your publication might bring for our community? What are
Anybody know the backstory about what she's responding to? I mean, I would assume she's going to enlighten us on that in a moment, because as a random viewer of this video, I don't know any of the context. So far, well-written letter, regardless of if you suggest it's her that's writing it. When I read a letter back, the way it's been geared towards the reader, in this case her, with you and yours, and a lot of them, makes it sound like a really well-written letter. I just don't know the context, unfortunately.
What are all these BSM model builders with exaggerated self-opinion going to do afterwards? What about experimentalists who survive hiding inside big multi-TV collaborations? Can you offer them all any decent employment alternatives? Some of them
Okay. I mean, this sounds like something we shouldn't really be covering. Who suggested this, Brian? Okay.
have families and young children. Some of them are already too old to get employment elsewhere. For some of them, academia is the only way to get US visa. If you like, yes, what we created is a bubble, but it helps thousands of those guys and their families not to die from hunger.
Is this our bleeding heart for pseudoscience? What is this? Does anybody know what she wrote in Nature? I'm stretching here, I know I am.
We all do the same stuff and have some trade secrets. For example, I'm one of the authors of the so-called model. Pretty useless stuff, old refurbished with a couple of new blows and whistles. But if people buy this and it helps them to get grants, who cares? For people...
Okay. So it sounds like, contextually, this is a letter from somebody saying, look, you're knocking pseudoscience, and a lot of people put food on their table with this. That's what it seems like. Anybody else disagree? I'm putting together the context as we go.
That's exactly what it is, Nathan. Kind of don't steer the pot, don't question the higher-ups. And just one minor correction, it wasn't Brian. I shared it in a Skype with you guys, but it was shared with me, with my friend Enes Ibo Danube, who's a member on Discord too. So I thought it was relevant, and it's a good video in my opinion. Check it out, man.
People who pay us all we do is just noise. They have zero idea that elementary particles exist. They pay us from public funds, not from their own, and basically pay for something cool, some new crazy hype, which they need either to include into their science spending reports or, in case of universities, to attract students. Your paper made a lot
Science spending reports. Right, okay. None of them will be science. That was disclaimed at the beginning of the letter.
Lot of noise and most likely will affect redistribution of HEP funds towards other areas. But I doubt that you'll be able to suggest and implement any organizational changes. Also, any changes of quality criteria which would demonstrate uselessness of somebody's work will have zero chance of approval.
Okay, that's pretty self-condemning. I'm kind of... did you watch this already when you said it sounds like she's penned this? Because I'm starting to agree with you. I mean, being that's self-deprecating and saying, "Oh, look at my begging bowl. How dare you cast aspersions about us and our pseudoscience. This pseudoscience gets approved and we keep food on our table with it. So can you do something about it to find us new jobs?" Who would write this?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was very interesting, man.
I understand that all what I wrote above might sound a bit harsh, sorry for this, but this
Harsh? Self-deprecating?
is how our society is built, and this is not only a problem in the HEP community, but also exists in all other areas.
What's HEP? Anybody? Can someone have a quick Google search for HEP community? See what the hell she's referring to.
My heart is bleeding when I regularly see bright and intelligent persons with independent ways of thinking leaving academia or getting kicked out, whereas obedient idiots remain. But there's nothing we can do.
And there's me with a bowl of popcorn.
Those who get kicked out usually find better opportunities outside of academia.
Just had a note from QE. He says they can pick up cans along the side of the road. Supervised. Thanks, QE.
Those who remain in academia accept the rules and enjoy the comfort of academic life. Of course, sometimes there are exceptions, like string theorists Smolin and White, but I doubt you'd like to share their destiny.
Relieves any...
Well, I don't know about you, but I found that very amusing. I'm pretty sure she wrote that herself. I agree.
Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson.
I'm reading this to you
as to start the show with a fake letter that was written into the show just to get things going.
Right.
That reminds me of that.
And Mr. Meadnam, something like that, right?
Needham.
Yeah, it'd start off a bit with Mr. Meadham writes, "You guys don't cover enough supercars. Why haven't you got the new Ferrari on?" "Well, Mr. Meadham, we have got the new Ferrari. It's the best car in the world."
As an illustration, a rare example of somebody else's honest words. I can't prove to you that this email is real, so you'll have to take my word for it.
You see, if I get real emails, right, I very, very, very rarely see the need to disclaim the sincerity or genuine nature of said email. For example, when I say I've had several comments, now I might suggest if you go back to 2283, you might be able to find what I'm referring to, but you know who you are if I'm talking about your comment. This particular comment says, "Nathan is so handsome and awesome. I think he's wonderful. It's such a shame he's married." And then I'll refer back to that person and you'll say, "Oh, right, okay, so someone made that comment." What I don't do is go, "I made up a comment about someone telling me how wonderful and awesome and handsome I am. You'll just have to take my word for it. There's definitely that commenter. People are definitely just taking out that day to tell me how wonderful and handsome I am. Obviously, I'm not making this up, right?" I don't need to disclaim that, do I? If it's real, you just go from memory, read out the letter, do whatever it is, and then refer back to it. Not, "You'll have to take my word for it that this person that I've made up, who's very self-deprecating and apologising for how harsh they're being to themselves, and so useful at making your point, it would probably turn out, right? Sabina." Oh, this is brilliant. Fun, fun, fun.
In contrast to the person who sent this email, I don't think that taxpayers are stupid. We're not paying physicists for crazy new hype.
They're probably not physicists. Physicists would be dealing with the physical and natural world because that's what physics is. And it's exclusively dealt with by science and the scientific method because that's what physics is. The study of the physical and natural world. That's natural science adjudicated by the scientific method. Yeah, hence my criticism of whether or not these people would have a worthy job picking up cans when they're not actually abiding by that methodology. Go pseudoscientists, not physicists.
We want to see results. And soon taxpayers will start asking some tough questions. An example. So they told
I don't need to ask any questions. Just point out that you're not actually scientists. Then I get on with my day. You can then concern yourself about it as you are, Sabina.
you that this Dune experiment that's being built from some
That's an interesting word you should use there. Right there, right there. Experiment. What? The elucidation of the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena by way of manipulation of a presumed cause of said effect, establishing the hypothesis. Like if A, then B, A being your independent variable, being manipulated in the experiment. You don't do that, Sabine. Yeah? What you do is pseudoscience. You're not manipulating presumed causes of naturally occurring phenomena now, are you? You'd be one of those people, as QE puts it, out picking up cans along the side of the road, supervised. Rather than bullshitting people for taxpayers' money.
billions dollars of public funds at Fermilab will tell us why we exist or why the universe didn't disappear. I regret to inform you that it won't do any such thing. Regardless of what the result of the Dune experiment will be, it'll not tell us
It's not an experiment. It's fraud.
why the universe contains more matter than antimatter, because
And that's not a scientific endeavour.
this question is impossible to answer within the context of our current theory.
Meanwhile, step one of the scientific method only sets out to elucidate the cause of a observed phenomena. Step one, observe natural phenomenon. That's it. It's not a phenomena to study unless you've observed it. So when you say, oh, well, we can't even really do anything when we're asking a question about the substance and how much of something. Sounds a lot like maths in pseudoscience, reifications of worlds that don't really exist. I mean, what would I know? I'm but a flat earther, right?
Theories. The matter-antimatter symmetry that Dune is supposedly shedding light on is a pseudo-problem. It's a story that physicists have made up that they're now selling to the public.
Yep, second time in this video we've agreed. Well, what do you know? Like buses, two come along at the same time after you've been waiting for ages.
Because they think that once they have the money, it doesn't really matter if they deliver what.
No, that's an appeal to motivation, my love. You don't know, do you? I don't know either. I can't divine the thoughts of these men when they get their paychecks. Oh, wonderful. I don't have to provide any scientific validity so long as the taxpayer keeps paying me as they rub their hands together. No, I have no idea. It's a fallacy. Appeal to motivation.
What they promised. Though, to be fair, I think that some of them are honestly confused about what CP violation.
Same fallacy. Now you're going to, appeal to their confusion? You don't know.
In the neutrino sector even says about antimatter. What will the experiment do? It'll measure some properties of neutrinos. What's that good for? It's good for keeping particle physicists employed.
Third time's a charm. Hat trick. Yeah, that's what it's good for. Precisely. Keeping, well, let's not call them something they're not when you call them physicists, but we've already dealt with that. But keeping them in a job, yeah, I'd agree.
Because some of them have families and it'd be...
Oh, should we get out a violin for the pseudoscience purveyors of nonsense and their families? I couldn't give a toss. I live on near poverty and have done for 10 years under severe ridicule for understanding and appreciating the measurements you included and every other person on the surface of the plane of Earth utilise. That'd be flatness. But apparently I've deserved of being in near poverty and ridicule constantly for the last 10 years. But my heart should bleed for the poor physicists. Maybe they can't heat the mansion.
Be unfair if they had to do something useful for their income, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It would only be reasonable that these people that are getting money from government funding are actually providing something for their time and the money that they get paid. But they don't. They come up with just so stories, don't they? They're not validating cause and effect. That's not happening.
It. And has anyone even noticed that the US government spent another $2 billion or so on a new particle collider at Brookhaven? Its purpose is to improve measurements of the quark and gluon distribution inside of heavy ions.
No, to be fair enough, right, the Glocken-Fluken distribution amongst heavy ions is very, very important work. I'm not going to deny it.
What's it good for? You're not supposed to ask.
How dare you even suggest that it doesn't have a very valid and useful purpose of smashing stuff together underground in these tubes, like they've been doing since the 1960s? Build a bigger one! What's your problem? I don't seem to understand why you would even question this. Very valid science, in quotes, being done there. Measuring the smashing gluton heavy nonsense monsters. Or whatever she said.
Supposed to believe that you're too stupid to understand what it's good for.
Exactly. You're just too stupid to understand what it's good for when you're smashing stuff together.
But let me fill you in. It's good for keeping particle physicists employed. Meanwhile, the Chinese are laughing their asses off that you think it makes your country worth defending. That particle physicists have created these
Yeah, it's going to grind me every time she calls these people physicists. They're not. Physics is the study of the physical and natural world adjudicated by natural science. That's the scientific method. Exclusively. That is physics.
bubbles of useless research is not a problem that can be fixed from inside the community. The only way to fix the problem is to stop paying them. I'm afraid that...
No, the way to stop them is to elucidate what they're doing by way of telling the world how science has been hijacked. That's what we're doing in 2025. That's our sole objective. That's our main purpose. It's our raison d'etre. That's why we're here. That's why we're covering your video, to point out that people like you hijack the terminology of science, that's cause and effect reasoning based on observation of naturally occurring phenomena, and keeping, as you call it, physicists, loosely defined, employed. Go ahead, whoever that was.
But Nathan, didn't they find the God particle?
And that turned into what? Did it provide something useful to humanity, Neil?
I think not.
This to me seems like it's a response to Doge, and a lot of them are crapping themselves that the gravity train's going to stop.
I don't care really. I mean, beyond us pointing out what pseudoscience is, what happens to these people after the fact, which is kind of what she's covering, is inconsequential to me. I don't care. What, they go on the breadline? No offence to you, Sabine. I'm only concerned about me and my own family in that regard. But in terms of us exposing their total disregard for science, I'll do that all day long. Will I concern myself with what happens to them after the fact? No. Definitely not. Are they concerned about me? No. I don't see them super chatting, sending me PayPals, worrying about whether or not I can feed the kids this week. They're not worried about me. Why the hell would I worry about them? Meanwhile, they are still getting paid. They've done quite nicely till now, haven't they? So good for you. You bled it dry, and now the gravy train, as it's just been put by one of our compadres in Discord, is about to run dry. Oh well. Yeah, did you suckle at that teat long enough? Now you'll have to find a different teat to suckle at.
But I think that's the problem, Nathan. That's why they're worried. See, if you lay down science and the scientific method, there's going to be a lot of people on the unemployment line, Nathan.
Like I say, Neil, I don't care. I've been on the unemployment line plenty of times in my life. Nobody came from the science community to pity me, did they?
Happen. I didn't want this to happen. This is why I wrote my 2017 comment. But at this point, it's too late for them to change anything about it. I've read this email dozens of times, and each time I'm stunned.
While you were drafting it? Why would you have read it dozens of times unless you were changing things in it?
by how condescending it is to all the people who do honest work and whose taxes pay for academic jobs. It makes me sick. And it makes me glad that I no longer have anything to do with this so-called research area that's rotten to the core. If you are one of the many physicists who know full well what nonsense research I'm talking about, but you still keep your mouth shut, if you're one of those who laugh about me, because no one believes what I'm saying. If you're one of those who spread lies about me, like that story that I was invited to give a talk at CERN but was afraid to go, did you?
Oh, did you not go to CERN to see them smashing the particles together and that? Oh, what a shame. Should I start a picket line? Should we go out and protest?
Make that up? I hope it was amusing. But Jesus, you...
We don't think we had any swearing up until now, so we'll just...
Your problem isn't that I'm making noise. Your problem is that you're lying to the people who pay you. Your problem is that you're cowards without a shred of scientific integrity.
How dare you?
Your problem is that every bubble eventually bursts. By the way, the reason I now call it nonsense...
Go on.
There's a big bubble about to burst, and that's the globe.
Shout out to Unitox Femu. That pseudoscience always takes all money. Thank you for the super chat.
Research and no longer bullshit research is that YouTube flags the latter as profanity, and we don't want to be profane on this channel. That would be absolutely terrible. All right, let me know what you think about all this in the comments.
I've done a response video, so that's quite cool. It gives me an opportunity to suggest that at Sabina's behest, personally, you should toddle along to her channel and let her know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, with a polite comment that won't immediately get eradicated by the YouTube censor bots, or Sabina herself. So politely let her know that we have responded to her video, which came out only 4 days ago. And has had 2.2...
Did she swear at the end of that?
Say again, Neil?
Did she swear at the end of that video?
Yeah, she's quite pleased with herself about it, actually, Neil.
Yeah, wait till the end.
Oh, yeah. Does she call people a doo-doo head?
There are many reasons why you might not want other people to get your private information, and yes, I have reasons. This is why I signed up to Incogni, who've been sponsoring this video. You see, each time you open a website, doing this takes up a lot of time. Incogni moved. There are 51 my personal detail. I'll sleep better at night, and maybe I can help you sleep better too.
Is that what you were referring to?
If you use my code Sabine or the custom link in the info below, you'll get sick.
Is that it?
Are you a heliocentric pseudoscientist who's struggling to sleep at night?
Very good. Okay, so yeah, as I say, I've just dropped a link to Sabina Hosselenfelder's video, so please let her know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed. Hopefully, should Sabine do a response in that regard, she'd put a link to my video. Same goes for anybody else we do response videos to. The idea being that you going along, sharing the YouTube algorithmic love with comments and views, would result in them doing the same for us. Chance would be a fine thing. Well, that was fun.
What's everyone think the topic was that she's been so vague about?
People bullshitting in science. Don't listen to their bullshit science. Use my bullshit science is probably her objection, I would imagine. Shout out to Original D-Rose. Recognised her voice. My favourite dits. Okay, fair enough. Thanks for the super chat.
You put a little makeup on and done a half of this one.
Bible U asks, do men get called ditzy too? Absolutely yes. There's plenty of ditzy men.
Yeah, look at Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't a ditzy male.
I posted a video
pseudoscientist.
about Neil deGrasse Tyson in the chat this morning, and he is an absolute moron in this video.
Exactly. He's a ditz pseudoscience fool.
Oh, fair enough. Well, he has his moments. He's a good magician sometimes.
That I'll give him. He's a very good magician.
Indeed, he do. So we're going to toddle along to politics tomorrow. We could do a bit of Earth Awakenings today.
Yeah, let's pop in there.
Shall we have a look?
Brian said there's some really good guys there.
In Earth Awakenings?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. What are they on? Yeah, they've got a whole bunch of people in there. Right, keep your voices down just temporarily as we join.
Possibly a wind shear that they encountered right at the ground, and basically the plane fell out of the sky real close to the ground, and that's what causes that.
I mean, but we are on par. This is about the average every year. I mean, you know, remember, the news cycle is strange. Now, the election season is done, all these kind of sort of things, right? So, during last year, the election season was hot. Before that, all the COVID stuff and, people, just arbitrarily making up stuff about Joe Biden. So now, the news cycle is pretty slow. So we're hearing about all of the incidents, right?
Yeah, Robert's correct. These are normal numbers, actually. These are actually normal numbers for January and February. But do you guys find that acceptable? 1.2 a day or something? You know what I mean? That's crazy in my...
Yeah, that's boring.
Oh, now he's off.
Boring.
Oh, no, he came back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it was boring. They were talking about Biden. Very tedious.
Was that our favorite Jamaican?
Yeah, that was another reason to immediately disappear. He seemed happy enough talking about stuff that wasn't Earth-related.
What were they talking about?
Biden. Politics. Which is weird, because we go to the politics server and it's very flat Earth focused. There's a whole bunch of other servers I've got on here. I've got Flatsoid server on here as well. I didn't know I got that on there. Is Flatsoid server any good?
Let's go have a look-see.
It's also Flat Earth 24/7 Discord, which I typically toddle along to, and there's never anybody in there because they're all in politics. Yeah, that's completely deserted. Let's have a look in Flatsoid server, see if anybody's in. Nope, nobody's in there either.
No, there's 2 people in a 24/7.
Oh, is there?
In a chill lounge. Yeah, like 2 people in a chill lounge.
24/7 Discord. Oh yeah, there is a couple of people.
They're on the opposite side of the street.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going? We're not interrupting,
Good,
are we?
man. No, just looking into this new info about the JFK files. What you up to?
About the what? JFK what?
The JFK files. They just released some more information.
Oh, okay. No, I hadn't noticed, or I hadn't got a clue about that. No, sorry.
Did he say Earth is flat?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll leave you to it. We're just toddling around to some different services, lurking around.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're just hanging out, seeing if people want to drop in.
Fair enough.
See what we're up to.
We might pop back.
Okay.
See you later.
Good to see you, Nathan. Be well.
You too. Be well.
Bye.
Bye. Don't forget to write.
No one's come to me with any suggestions for new servers, so I've put the call to action out a few times. I'm like, if you want us to toddle along to any particular servers, let us know, and I'll see if I can join and build up a bit of rapport with their owner or operator and, toddle along to different places. But no one's come up with any suggestions. And I'm no Discord lover. I don't spend any time beyond the show in these places. I barely know how to use the software.
I say we crash Gem Panda server.
What's that called?
I don't know. I'll see if I can find it.
If I haven't already got it, then I probably can't join. Doesn't look like I've already got it. Sorry, Neil.
I've attempted a couple of times, Nathan, on different servers, like gaming servers, to set up debates and to get people here. And what mostly happens is the person agrees to a debate, but then before the debate, they need my model. They need all the arguments I'm going to present. And they need all these caveats and certain circumstances to happen. And then it never does. So I've tried for you, but it's hard to get people to debate live, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Well, that's why it's good to have politics as much as, I've said, let's see what else is available, where else we can go. Politics has consistently been good every single time we've gone, and we have been going for a good solid year now, every single Friday. And it's always good. I mean, it's typically slow starting, right? We'll get there on a Friday morning, and unless there's something going off immediately when we get there, it normally takes a little while to get into when we're in the live stream.
Yeah, we get to talk to Globe leaders, which is always fun.
Yeah. But it does actually seem relatively neutral. I mean, they'd probably let me get away with more than I should.
Maybe we can pop in there now and announce. Might be
politics?
A few friendlies who can help us out.
No, I don't want to go in there today. We'll go in there tomorrow. We already went in there once this week. Not that I'm sure they'd mind us just toddling along. But I think we might cover this. So Diver and Droid sent a video. FED server member Len1984 shared this in the Discord chat. I found it very interesting. Exposed by Ben Shapiro. The moment Ben Shapiro realised Neil deGrasse Tyson ... Okay, well, we'll cover that. As we've got half an hour left on the show. Maybe a bit less.
I think Ben Shapiro stumbled into this not expecting to have a debate. I think he's genuinely caught off guard a bit.
If we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data.
I'm happy to opine on this.
And a bit shocked by the nonsense that he's hearing.
This only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender.
To be faced with a famous scientist spouting...
He's not a scientist.
Nonsense at this level is...
He's always spouting nonsense at all levels. That's what he is, a nonsense spewer. It's just because it's not necessarily related to the subject that you've got a keen interest in that you normally let the nonsense that he spews breeze on by.
It's extraordinary.
Otherwise, why do you even give a shit?
This is the point that Neil deGrasse Tyson continues to make. It's the only point he can really make is, why are you pointing out scientific fact here? Why do you care about this?
If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all.
And the problem is that when someone's rights trample the rights of others.
What is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports?
He puts out his class.
Why has he even got an opinion on this? I don't really understand what this is all about. Is it just coincidence, i.e. an unrelated topic, he's ended up exposing himself as a nonsense waffler and people have noticed more than they would typically? Is that all this is?
Classic argument of the future of sports is through hormonal levels, and those who fall within not male and female sports.
And I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are.
What the bloody hell is he babbling about? Okay, I mean...
Wait, it gets better.
Oh, does it? I was about to cut away, thinking this is unrelated or too unrelated.
Ben's face there, he's kind of like, okay, I see some problems here, but...
You talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right now, children are being taught about the quote unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory based idea.
Theory, like what? In a context of science, theory comes after scientific validation's been provided through systematic experimentation based on hypothesis after observing natural phenomena. That's a theory. So Shapiro doesn't know what he's babbling about either.
Idea.
No, wait, hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
Wasn't it the case maybe only 10 years ago that when you described someone as being on the spectrum, that was how disabled mentally you were?
That's
Why are they using the same terminology? I don't keep up with mainstream anything, typically speaking. But what I do, when I occasionally get exposed to it, pay attention to is the language that they're using. He's just described people, in terms of gender at least, as being, quote, on the spectrum. Like, isn't that an interesting turn of phrase he's used?
That's a social point, not a scientific point.
It's been starting to articulate the difference between a social construct and a scientific fact.
Meaning we express ourselves...
Hold on. So scientific fact. I don't think that... I'm under the suspicion that the host doesn't know what science is either. Shapiro doesn't. Tyson definitely doesn't. And I suspect the host doesn't either.
None of them do.
Based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum.
It's like buzzwords. He's got buzzwords that he needs to get out there. On the gender spectrum. Being on the spectrum is, as far as I'm concerned, in terminology, a description of mental disability. Now, it can't be coincidence that this science communicator is using this language when there's plenty of people in opposition to the gender agenda, the rights and freedoms and privileges given to them as a group being challenged, suggests that I don't know how to put this really without necessarily flagging something on YouTube. Should we carry on with this? Because I'm probably getting dangerously close to a line I don't want to cross. Or don't need to.
Yeah, carry on. A few more minutes. You'll see.
Whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined.
It either is a scientific objective fact.
What do you mean by scientific objective fact there, sir? Objective facts are objective facts. When it comes to science, it's elucidation of the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena that's been established through systematic experimentation. Now, I wouldn't describe that as an objective fact. I'd describe that as scientific validity. Sometimes called, what was the word? Theory?
Or it's not. You should know this, being the guy who wrote the book on teaching children scientific fact. And notice he just completely evades that. Doesn't address what Ben just said.
So the question is, what is the relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case.
Why is Shapiro even having this discussion with Neil deGrasse Tyson? I don't really get it. Anybody care to enlighten me why this is even happening?
I would think, my opinion is that being that Neil deGrasse is a pseudoscience and a pseudophysicist, one of astrophysicists, and he pretty much likes to purport things and assert things as if his word is bond and he speaks truth. Ben, who is considered like a person that reveals fallacies and, false claims, he's trying to use that as an example. But we would do it in a different way. So it's almost like Ben is about the realism that men are men, women are women. He's been having friction and resistance against him for the longest. He's even hated for it, among other things. And I guess he has one opinion on it. And Neil, I like to hear what he has to say, because I feel that he's going to be like, well, no, because technically in scientific, there are some facts that says scientifically that the science says that, some men, and some women, do have some type of scientific, and he's going to be talking a bunch of rhetoric. So I think that's what this whole thing is kind of corroborating with pseudoscience versus science biology.
case. But people don't seem to want to say that, although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science?
But he's completely circumventing whether or not it is a scientific objective fact. Regardless of how you want to use that fact, where does that fit into the larger story? And the story is more important than the scientific fact. Well, that fits into the sponsor of today.
Warren, mate, try and string an entire sentence together. Like, that's one sentence with 4 edits. Bloody hellfire.
Is video Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that lets you compare perspectives on any topic with full transparency on the political bias, financial incentives, the article links. That's what code on the screen. Viewers get the top.
Suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true.
And it's shocking to me to see a famous scientist.
He's not a scientist.
Make an actual argument against objectively simply make a scientific observation without being asked, why do you want to make that observation?
So scientific observation, there's no such beast. There's observation of naturally occurring phenomena. There's then a supposed cause put to that in the form of a scientific prediction, otherwise known as hypothesis. Then there's the actualization of said presumed cause to see if it actually causes the effect you observed at step 1. Now, you're talking about this like there's objective scientific facts. Now, you're just talking about objective truth when it comes to defining things, like men and women. That's not science. Saying that's a man, that's a woman, that's giving things names. Yeah, putting them into categories. That's not science.
Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist.
But what?
Oh, really? You call yourself a scientist? Now you're a fraud, Tyson. You're not validating presumed cause of effects to see if they actually cause the effects. That's science. You're not doing it.
And just said a moment ago was objectively true. And your response was, well, where are you going with this?
I just simply care what is objectively true. And science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an action.
5th time he's used that terminology. On the spectrum, yep. I will say what I hesitated to say last time. I'll stop myself, but I will say it. There are people who detract from anything to do with transgenderism by suggesting that they're mentally ill. That is to say, people who want to change from being a man to a woman have a mental disability. Now, that isn't my view. It's the view of plenty of others, and I'm sure that's pretty well documented, so no one's going to object to me putting that out there. But that's why I suddenly question his 5th time use of this term on the spectrum.
Actual thing in an actual society.
In an actual society, what, as opposed to a pretend one? What are you on about?
If we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's...
You're not explaining... Explanations don't... You validate cause and effect with science, right? Yeah, because you use it to give just so stories, you think that you're offering explanations. No, you explain cause of effects. That's what science is. It's very, very narrow.
That's an interesting frontier to study.
Okay. I'm not sure why you're even going into this. Why are you arguing against objective science and objective fact?
Why do you keep calling objective descriptions of things science when science establishes the cause of naturally occurring phenomena through systematic experimentation based on scientific prediction, otherwise known as hypothesis? That's the scientific method. None of this is science. Nothing in this video whatsoever is science. Nothing that the host, this guy, has said is related to science or has any reason to have any scientific terminology ascribed to it whatsoever. But yet this guy has said the word science about 16 times.
It's real and it's there.
Well,
because it's real because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question.
Really? Is it? How to describe manifestation is a scientific question? No. A scientific question would be, what caused that effect? It's the only scientific question.
are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically? I think the
Studied scientifically is to establish or elucidate the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. Oh my God, this is getting more and more frustrating. Bullshitters.
But Nathan, excuse me, Nathan.
Yes.
But you notice, now I'm gonna be honest, on the thread, your live thread, I said, be right back. I went and ate. I caught the tail end before I interjected. I told you, this, now that we, thanks to QE and you, that we have really learned and went back and found out the fundamental foundational source and meaning and denoted etymological meaning of scientist, scientific, science theory, all of this. Now you know how many different really avenues and angles that this word science is being convoluted with. I mean, you got these two guys, and you even got Neil that said, well, actionality, the actions of a guy wearing a dress or calling himself Sarah or Betty or Debbie, whatever, Brenda, that's the end, and walking around like that, that's an action. So that's an observed phenomenon.
No,
They even deeper, they deeper convoluted said, you're watching that, that's not a natural phenomenon. That's like you said, a psychotic, delusional.
No, I don't suggest
No, it's
that. No,
man-made.
I don't take that opinion. Right, I've put that out there because it's to contrast his use of language, not because I hold that opinion. Now, you're entitled to hold whatever opinion you like, D-Rose, right? I don't care, yeah? If you want to wear a dress and you're a man, good for you. If you want to transition from being male to female or female to male, good for you, I don't care. That's your bag. It's nothing to do with me and I don't care, right? Now, the fact that it's a hot potato in political terms is also neither here nor there. The only thing that's relevant to us in this context is Neil deGrasse Tyson as an individual is a pseudoscience purveyor of heliocentrism, and here he is being exposed as a pseudoscientist on a different subject. Now, I have no skin in this race. I don't have any interest in the transgender agenda. I don't care. Now, if you want to air your opinions about it, feel free to do so elsewhere. My only interest in this discussion is the exposure of all three participants. That's Shapiro, Tyson, and the host, William Warren, whatever his name is. Actually, I should do a call to action to him as much as I did for Sabine Hoslenfelder. This channel is called Warren Smith Secret Scholar Society. That's the name of the channel. That sounds familiar. Have we covered this guy before? That's a familiar name. Maybe not. We'll see. Either way, please let this videographer know, that's Warren, know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, there's 108 people in the live stream chat. He's not as big, anywhere near as big as Sabine. He's a lot bigger than us. But please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a polite comment that doesn't immediately get removed. The idea being if he was to respond to us, and he might be a softer, more gentle way in, as we're not necessarily critiquing him as much as Tyson and Shapiro. If he was to respond, hopefully he'd put a link to my video. But in the meantime, if you are one of the 110 people in my live stream, please do pop along to Warren's video, pop him a like, pop him a comment, help him along in the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully he'd do the same for me. But there's a link going by in the chat right now.
Hold on, before you continue, Nathan. I can't get an audience with this guy about science and about flat Earth. He will not even come near us, but he'll talk about this. This is a joke.
Yep. And I wanted to say, I apologize, Nathan. I redact what I said. This is not Nathan's opinion. He's unbiased. He's indifferent. But my opinion, I was the same way until, and thanks to President Trump for putting an executive order to cease and desist all transgender males participating in female sports, getting in their lockers, being in their jail cells and their showers, which is unsafe for real heterosexual biological females. Now I'm more than indifferent. I consider it something that needs to be destroyed as an ideology and not allowed. It should be an underground format lifestyle, and it should not be supported by legislation, how the United States is letting it be, and a lot of other countries are letting it be, and are now under journalistic investigation by Candace Owens with France, if y'all been following that. So this is a good subject, and it's a good subject, like you said, how you have somebody like Neil. I don't even know why he's there, because he's not even a scientist, like you said. He's not even, qualified to speak on anything, personally, anything. He's a clown. But carry on.
Okay.
Good morning, guys.
Hello. Got any comment on the transgender subject, Chocolate?
Not any comment in particular, except that I've brought it up before that Mr. Smoking the Grass Tyson here is losing his credibility, even in his mainstream nonsense, because of his stance on this subject. So I just find it kind of funny. Sorry, I missed the episode pretty well. I just got here.
Perfect. Your summary, like mine in this regard, Chocolate, because your sentiment is the same as mine. Our only interest in this is the expose or exposing of Neil deGrasse Tyson's science acumen, which typically people just accept when he's talking about space. They don't question it. Whereas when it's something that's near and dear, which isn't in my case near and dear, I don't care about this particular subject. And again, if you're perhaps transgender in the audience and going, what, you don't care about me and my rights? Well, no, when it's on my live show about Flat Earth debate, I don't. If you want my opinion because it's come up, I think it's a good thing that there's a certain swing towards finding rights for people that might be persecuted. It's swung too far, but things have a way of sort of swinging back the other way to the point where they balance out. So if you look in past history of homosexuality being maybe in the 60s and 70s, extremely ridiculed, and then throughout the 70s and 80s, it swung too far the other way, and it's up in everybody's faces. Now it's reached a level where it's kind of indifference and you have enough gay rights and nobody's moaning, right? But it's not a big deal because suddenly it's not being brought to everyone's attention with a massive swing too far in the favour of, in this case, a transgender agenda that people don't necessarily agree with when it comes to the basics of the principles that are being adhered to by the people who are transgender, who are in a really tiny minority. But they shouldn't be persecuted. So in a way, it's good that these things come to a head because they can swing back and neutralise eventually. But we're at the point at the extreme end of the swing. So yeah, people are going to get hip about it. Me, I don't really care. No offence if you're transgender. Me, a transgender lesbian woman, I think I've got a right to have an opinion on it.
Concern is if you study some topic that's a hot button topic and you bring scientific methods and tools to it.
Scientific methods?
Did he pluralize it?
It's the Lone Rangers. No, there's only one method, Tyson. Singular.
We don't trust. I'm interpreting here. I think we as a society don't trust that people in charge.
Yeah, here it comes.
In a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms.
That's all government do. That's their purpose. What's he babbling about?
Be clear here, Neil deGrasse Tyson is making an argument for not exploring the scientific explanation for certain topics.
You don't have scientific explanations for certain topics, you're an idiot. I'm just going to say it. It was a suspicion until this moment. Now I can just say it. You have no idea what you're babbling about. You don't know what science is.
Better not to know what could be.
He's closing his eyes because he's trying to think of the words that he's trying to express this nonsense waffle with. You don't know what you're babbling about. Now, you'd be really clear and concise like I am if you actually knew what science was. The elucidation of the cause of naturally occurring phenomena through systematic experimentation based on hypothesis. That's science. Nothing that you just spewed had anything in the slightest relatable to that method.
Known. It's truly remarkable.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out.
Bring out the science? Would you roll it out on a little cart? It's a method. A method that elucidates the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. If you've got a naturally occurring phenomena that you want to know the cause of, then science can help you out. In terms of you and your ability to vary and manipulate that which you assume will cause the effect you're studying. That's like, you're going to roll that out and then discuss. There's not a great deal to discuss once you validate the presumed cause of an effect. It becomes a validated cause. From there, you can advance humanity with that information. That's what science is good for. Advancing humanity.
I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides
what is your motivation?
That's the key point in this entire dialogue, is what is your motivation for asking these questions?
That's a fallacy. Appeal to motivation. Who gives a shit?
Delving into this scientific truth.
Why? Why does that?
Oh, if he says it one more time, he must have said it 20 times. Scientific truth is offered through the experimentation based on hypothesis after observing phenomena that you want to know the cause of. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, how are you gonna put climate change or climate emergency through the scientific method?
You're not.
Yeah, that's the whole point. They know these things cannot be validated through scientific method, so they're gonna go down on pseudoscience and they're gonna constantly claim them as science. It's the power word.
Does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
Then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
Yeah, well, but the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out.
Well, your crappy argument, Shapiro, based on your lack of understanding of science.
You can make a better observation grounded in...
Here we go, fallacy of division.
Fact, logical reasoning, then that should win out. Because that will get us, that is more likely to get us where we are trying to go.
What, using logical reasoning will get us where we're more likely to wanting to be going? What is this nonsense shite waffle that these people babble?
The history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster.
What, rolling out the science as an exercise? I mean, you're just both talking nonsense at each other, aren't you, at this point?
If it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
Should they be let into the public domain of knowledge, then it could be wielded by politicians.
So what's the public domain of knowledge? It's just some term you've made up, right? Nonsense waffler.
In ways that I don't like, so it's better that people are kept in the dark about these realities.
No.
Well, what realities would they be? This people, right? Are they just pseudo-intellectuals, sniffing their own farts? Pretending to be intellectuals and pretending to be intelligent when they talk total nonsense?
Arguing on, we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
Sorry, scientific endeavours don't challenge people's freedoms. They simply elucidate the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. You're cross-threading in this idea of freedom, which is a concept, with the idea of science, which you haven't got a clue about. So I can't really suggest that you're contrasting it with the assertion of cause and effect reasoning based on experimentation, because that definitely isn't what they're talking about when they say science. So what are they contrasting it with? Well, they're contrasting it with nonsense waffle from other pseudoscience practitioners who'll give you just those stories. And that, stopping people's freedoms. Okay.
So
I'll give it.
I agree. I think that's what the Constitution is for.
It's truly remarkable to see one of the most famous scientists in the world make an argument.
He's not a scientist at all.
Literally, for not allowing people to gain knowledge in...
Oh my God! Spit a single sentence out! You're driving me absolutely insane! How many frickin' edits do you need to put one single sentence together without stuttering, pausing, or finding your frickin' thoughts in the middle of being filmed? I mean, my God, man, you're insufferable. You've driven me to the edge of insanity in less than 9 minutes. My God, that was difficult. In the meantime, please let him know. That's Warren, lovely chap that he is. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice polite comment that alludes that we've covered his video. Stuttering nonsense, waffling garbage that it was. I mean, lovely guy, help him in the YouTube algorithm.
Hey Nathan, I want to commend you on how you're doing this video, man, because it's very important. Being that the science term and the science definition, that way you're breaking it down and exposing how through legislation, by using science as some type of plausible way of like saying it's justified to change legislation to grant these so-called freedoms, which is it's a false path. because one is not the same with the other, because it's wasting our taxpayers' money and it's investigating something scientific that's not even the scientific category. Psychological category, in my opinion, yes. But still, you know, it's this is how the United States in particular pulls the wool over people's eyes and gets the support during these polls and during these little these different electoral things where they adding on the elections and say, do you are you for or against yada yada yada? And this is how they waste our money, and that's what's being broken down right now as we speak by this administration for all of this unnecessary spending on crap like this. If you want to wear a dress and you think you a female giraffe, Johnny, that's fine. But we're not going to support you with our money to help you on a discovery of something that has nothing to do with that you're going to find in nature.
Okay. I had no idea you had such a transgender bee in your bonnet, D.
It's no, it's not that. It's the whole thing. And see, I got children, and anybody that has a child, they're grooming children, bro. They're making children who believe that their finger is a gun, that they can fly with freaking cardboard tied to their arms, that if he believes he's a girl, then that's it. He probably is a girl. This is what I'm against for it.
Okay.
Adults do what they want to do.
We can discuss it in the after show. Shout out to Duncan McLeod. He says the music is tailored to elucidate deep thought. Manipulative AF. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Duncan. What we'll do on the end of this stream is go through the scientific method for my audience. So step 1, observe a naturally occurring phenomena. That is to say, something that occurs in nature that you can see actually happening. That's step 1. Once you've established a naturally occurring phenomena, you can move forth with half of the established hypothesis already in place. That is to say, you've already got your dependent variable. That is to say, the effect you observed at step 1 is half of the hypothesis. That's the dependent variable. So the other half of the hypothesis, that's scientific prediction, is your supposed cause of the effect you observed at step 1. That's your suppositional statement complete because you have an if and then statement. If your suppositional cause, then the dependent variable, aka the effect you observed at step 1. So the if and then statement, known as an alternative hypothesis, is then established. Your independent variable and your dependent variable. Your presumed cause and the effect you observed at the first step. Alongside that, in step 2, that's hypothesis construction, is a null, otherwise known as a zero difference result, which is to say you vary and manipulate that which you assume will cause the effect, and it doesn't cause the effect. In the prediction, it's a if A, not B statement. In other words, zero difference or null hypothesis. So that's the full hypothesis construction. Step 2, establish the cause in suppositional form with the effect you observed alongside a null. Step 3, vary and manipulate that which you assume will cause the effect to see if it is actually going to cause the effect or not. That's to say, you experiment by varying that which you assume will cause the effect to see if it causes it. If you validate your alternative hypothesis, it means you varied your presumed cause and it caused the effect. Ka-ching! You've got a validated cause and effect relationship. That's to say you've got a validated experiment. The only addition to that is to say that the experimental stage calls for systematic experimentation to alleviate the idea of having somebody who's so idiotic that they will formulate an incorrect hypothesis or put together an incorrect apparatus or something of that nature. Get it wrong at the experimental stage. So the method, that's the scientific method, calls for systematic experimentation. So repeated experimental validity must be offered to the presumed cause to continually validate that it is actually the established cause of the effect. Now, the method is empirical because at the hypothesis stage, you can't both cause and not cause the effect. That's to say, once you vary and manipulate that which you assume causes the effect, and it does cause the effect, it can't also not cause it. You can't validate the null and the alternative at the same time. Only one will be proven. Either you vary and manipulate your presumed cause and it causes the effect, or it doesn't. But if it doesn't, you have proven the alternative hypothesis. There is a tick placed next to that scientific prediction. If A, not B, tick. Validated by way of varying it and seeing that it didn't cause it. That's a scientific prediction that's been validated. So even if you don't actually establish the cause of the effect, at the end of the method of science, an empirical outcome will always be offered. So that is the method of science, otherwise known as the scientific method, otherwise known as natural science, otherwise known as physics. That's the study of the physical and natural world. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Hey, Adam.
The Adam Minkin.
Afternoon, guys.
How's it going?
Oh, good. Just been and got a car.
You got a car? What'd you get?
Ford Ka Grand Prix edition for my lad. He's 18 in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. A Ford Ka.
Can we see a pic?
Is it the newer one or the old one? Because the newer one's basically an Abarth, isn't it?
Was it 2014?
Oh, I don't know. Is that the newer one? Is it the newer shape?
It's the newer. It's not the oldest shape. Yeah, it's the. I'll put it in Master B. Let me just.
It's very from memory. That's very similar to the car your other son's got, right?
Yeah, it's virtually the same as his little Fiat 500, but he couldn't have a Fiat 5. He refused. He said, "I'm too tall. It won't be right for my head." So you know how kids chat shit.
Yeah, Sherman Isetta.
There we go. Copy it and send it. I'll stick it in Master B.
Where'd you get it?
Literally, I mean, I always look national, but it's literally 15 mile away, Mansfield. Little bloke. It's a car he sold a few times. It's got a little, mate, it's got a little squeak on the clutch. But other than that, I'm really quite chuffed with it. Really, I'll share screen with you now. Say hello.
Watch, you guys drive automatics or standards? Jeez.
Standard.
Proper cars, not disabled. I'm not disabled, Neil.
That's nice. Very nice.
I like it.
I like it too. That's cool.
Check the inside.
I like it. It's got a stripe on it. This is perfect for an 18-year-old. Absolutely perfect, Adam.
The best thing, mate, and I didn't know until we'd agreed the price. He says, now have a look in the back. There's a huge bass bin. It must be 18.
It's got a subwoofer already.
Oh, mate, I've had it rocking. It's been fizzing my prostate on the way home. It vibrates that much.
Yeah, you can see why kids want it now, right? That's what it's all about for the pubescent teenagers, to shake their giblets.
Check that out. 34 on the clock.
34,000.
Nice.
That's 110,000 less than my car.
Hey, Nathan, I didn't mean to make your show a political thing, but
don't worry about it. We were covering that, D. You're perfectly entitled to cover it when we're literally covering it on the show. I can't really say, how dare you bring up your opinions on transgender agenda when we're literally covering it.
Right.
No, you're
but
entitled to your opinion.
It was so appropriate how you broke that down, though.
Yeah, it turned out to be more useful than I thought, because halfway through I'm like, oh dear, this isn't going very well. Should we be covering this at all?
Well, to me, what I got, and I didn't even watch the whole show because I was tending to the snow and everything, that it reiterates the convolution of science and the scientific. I wouldn't say practice, because they don't practice scientific method, but just using that word on so many different levels: the governmental level, the elitist level, on the globe-tard, regular, Dave Weiss type of level here on YouTube and everything, on TikTok level. Everybody is pimping and bastardizing the word science for their own self-amelioration and their own assertions to make false claims.
That was a lot of big words there, son.
Well, I'm trying to sound smart when I speak on here.
You're
So I
doing
don't
well.
sound like in between, man.
Is this some of that internal racism we were talking about yesterday or the day before yesterday? Are you black enough to call yourself Black D?
Oh, very much. But I don't call myself black. We went over that before. I talked to that about Discord. I rock with Aboriginal American, Indigenous American, American. If you want to put hues into it, HUES, copper colored, as defined in the dictionaries of what an American is, copper colored races. I mean, but I don't play with the black and white thing because that's a class that was created in the 1600s.
Yeah.
White,
Spoken.
everybody, landlord and stewardship. That's the difference. Landlord is white, steward is black. So those are class levels, and then they broke it down and tried to put it on colors. So that's another convoluted thing. People don't even know, what they talking about when they use all these misnomers. It's hilarious. Or like how they say the American President Trump. No, he's the United States president. There are 34 other presidents of American states, the Organization of American States, from Antigua all the way to Venezuela in alphabetical order. They all have their own presidents. They're all Americans. They're all on the South American and North American and Central American soil. We're all Americans. However, you have to respect the demarcated borders, like a Belize and a Panamanian. They have to respect their borders. The United States got to respect Colombia. Colombia got to respect the United States. It's all about international borders. That's all it is. But as far as using these misnomers, talking about I'm an American, you're not American, Mexican and Canadians, they're Americans, even though politically by colonization, they're now be called Canadians, but they're on the North American continent. Mexicans on the North American continent. So if a Japanese and a Vietnamese and a Filipino would be called Asian, and they come from Philippines, Japan, China, and Vietnam, why you don't have a problem calling them Asian, even though then you break it down subsidiary and call them Filipino, Vietnamese, and Japanese. Same thing with Americans. Americans are United States. Then you have your Antiguan, Belize, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador. They're Americans. But people don't, they convolute it just for their own, like I said, their own false claims and self-ameliorations, whether it be for profit or control or power.
That was a very long answer to how black are you?
I'm blackity black.
I found out a couple of days ago that there's internal racism in the black community where an assessment of how black you are takes place, which I had no idea about. But I'm going to be leaning into that now, I know.
Well, did you mention that? Like Candace Owens. Candace Owens considered the poster girl for not black or sellout, merely because she doesn't embrace the culture. And I don't embrace the culture. I embrace the culture of my ancestors. When we had Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we were entrepreneurs and had our own businesses and we were doing our thing. And, I don't embrace little girls twerking. I don't embrace this mumbling hip hop. I don't embrace the crime, the gang violence, the retarded so-called snitch code that doesn't even apply to an innocent bystander that sees a child get shot in a stroller and then reports it to the authorities as being a snitch. A snitch is two people conspiring to do a crime, which was a gang law through the mafia. If me and you rob a bank and I get caught for my own immunity tell on you, yeah, I'm a snitch. But if I'm a person that sees a woman get raped and I tell the description of the rapist, that doesn't make me a snitch. There's a whole bunch of retardation and stupidness that's in the culture that a lot of people who are like myself, icons of hip hop, that still recognize we separate ourselves from this current culture. And the adults separate themselves from the current culture. But those who criticize the culture, whether it be Bill Cosby or Candace Owens, and happen to be Candace that's married to a Caucasian, pale-skinned European man, or whatever, they use that as that's the reason why she's speaking that. No, she's speaking truth. There's nothing to be proud of. There's nothing to be proud of to see what we saw at the inauguration of Kamala Harris with half-naked. I mean, come on. That's not the real
half-naked
culture.
what now?
Huh?
I just heard half-naked and then you moved on in a sentence fragment.
I'm sorry. The campaign thing for supporting Kamala Harris. You know, it was a bunch of ratchetness. It was something you see on hip hop. I love hip hop at Miami. I love hip hop Atlanta. Chocolate and Eli know what I mean. If they watched the programs or heard of the programs, this culture, this pseudo culture, this pseudo.
Officer Tatum was on about this. So he's
Thank you. That's what.
Yeah, he's
There
on
you go.
about
That's
the
another one. Yes.
halftime show.
Who?
He's saying,
I didn't hear what you said, Adam.
Officer Tatum.
He's
Officer Tatum. I know what he's talking about.
Yeah. So he's gay, proud black man. But he's looking at it and saying, that ain't my culture. If it was,
Thank you.
why have you got to butt out and bleep out half the words? Listen to this guy rapping. You can't even hear half what he says because it's so vile and vulgar what's being described. It's not me. It's not the way I live my life. It's not the way I bring up my kids. It's a very...
And you know what, Adam? He's considered a sellout. He considered not black enough. See, that's the whole thing. It's almost like if you saw Do the Right Thing and Spike Lee's talking to the guy at the pizza and he's like, what are you talking about? Kobe and Michael Jordan are my favorite, but you don't like black guys, says Spike. He said, no, you know what I mean? He's black, but he's not like black. You know what I mean? There's black that is not black. What are you talking about? That's how stupid this whole ideology of blackness is.
My eyes glaze over in conversations such as those.
Say what?
I said my eyes literally glaze over in conversations such as those. That's just ridiculousness to me.
Right.
So I agree with you.
Thank you. And that's how some people handle it. You got to ignore it. But then you got to have some people that got to resist against it. Because what it's doing is it's starting to make the children think that it's cooler to twerk, to play ball, and to know the latest lyrics of a rap song versus acquiring an education or a vocational trade, being a father. You know what I'm saying? And me and Chocolate and Eli, we realize this. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of us that realize this, but we got some brothers and sisters on the platform that say these things and they get scrutinized for it and they get villainized for it because the people that they're speaking of have a guilty complex. They're culpable of purporting this attitude and this culture as being praised and idolatry, and glorified. Nah, that's not the case. The majority of us, we're not feeling it.
What, you wasn't cool with when Big Daddy Obama came out and told you, hey, as a black man, you got to go out there, do your job, and go vote for Kamala?
That was hilarious.
Like, what the hell? Go back to where you came from, bro.
Yo, remember when somebody threw a shoe at Bush? I was waiting for that moment. Somebody should have threw a Nike Air Jordan at him.
He was nice with the dunk, though, on that. I gotta give him the props, man. He's just like he's seen that coming. You see the dunking he did on that?
Yeah, he did it. Yeah, it was like one of those Mayweather Tyson.
For real, bro. Like I was like, where did that come from? What? Anyway. I'll say this just to kind of go back to the original subject right? So when we first got into this, there was this almost illusionary coherence of science that was purported on us. Like, oh, you flurfers, you're ridiculous. Science proves globe, science, right? Science proves everything. We know everything. You guys don't even believe in science because you think it's flat. Okay, great. Since that's begun, right? Obviously, we've had that little spurt where the Globers would start saying, well, science doesn't prove things, whatever, right? Well, now, as we're seeing, as example by the video that we just watched, even in mainstream, they're having their little fallouts now. There's like a civil war within mainstream science itself, because, I mean, since this started, we've had trust the science with the COVID crap, and now we got this transgender crap, right? So to me, it's kind of fun sitting back and watching mainstream science pull each other apart, based on this garbage that's being purported to the public, right? So when I see people like Neil Smoking the Grass Tyson getting chastised because he's supposed to be this wonderful astrophysicist, science communicator, right? And people, normal people, are just like, bro, what do you mean that you could? There's a spectrum. What do you mean? It's man or woman? Like, what are you talking about, right? And when he's getting pulled apart on that, to me, it's fun. So I kind of enjoy, like, even Sabine. You got people like Sabine, who, obviously is still mainstream, chill, whatever, but even she's calling it out. People like Eric Weinstein are calling it out. So I'm kind of enjoying this little back and forth they're having in their mainstream while they work their shit out that they had so coherent before, which is now falling apart. Meanwhile, here we know what the hell science is and what it's not. So
exactly.
My rant's done.
Okay, that's a fact.
No, I see how you could derive some enjoyment from that. It's like almost like gloating. Yeah, well, we've been saying it all along. The fact that you're now noticing it with this particular subject matter is neither in there, but it is good to see you finally cottoning on.
Yeah, because we had trust the science, and we got trust me, bro. It's just trust. And what we were told years ago, flat earthers, they simply lack trust in the mainstream science. Well, that's what's happening with you guys. So enjoy that. We'll be over here. Thanks.
And that word, that first quote, trust the science, that was literally quoted by Neil Smokes the Grass, Fat as a Bison Tyson. 1 week, less than a month into the public address about the COVID pandemic. He literally said, I just hope that they all trust the science, which I find being the most appalling, ironic comment that a pseudoscience can ever say, because not only he's giving good advice, but he's giving good advice on something that he doesn't even stand on, a topic which reflects what he's saying to trust. So it's almost like, I don't know, it's like seeing a guy that has life saying, giving you advice, but you could look at it as, yeah, because if I take your advice, I won't end up like you, but you don't take your own advice because you're a 3-time convict and now you're doing life. You get what I'm saying? So that's another way of tricking the public, because now he stands as a pseudoscience and he's telling you to trust the science on this COVID thing. Everybody did that, and guess what happened to them? You dig?
Yes.
Refraction.
So what's the science? That's the question. What's the science, and when is it applicable on what topic, on what subject matter, on what, discussion? And that's what Nathan's saying. It's not applied to Earth being flat.
Guys, if the conversation is still about NDT, he was the one who actually said during the COVID days that it's a social experiment, only to find out how many people still trust the science.
Oh,
he actually called.
Let me get it straight. Your speculation is that they're putting out the transgender agenda just to test the water of how far they can push people's intellectual inferiority.
No, I was talking about the Rona days, COVID, whatever you want to call it, when that whole shit just started. He was on a talk show. I can't remember. I'm sure I can find the clip. But he said something like, this is a social experiment to find out how many people are going to trust the science. I couldn't believe what I heard.
Thank you. He's alluding more elaborative to what I was saying. I just took to what you said, trust the science, the end of the statement that Neil said. But that's exactly what he said. Thank you for further elaborating on that.
So societally, I've noticed that there's been a divide after COVID, where there's certain individuals that mock general normies for trusting the government when they were told to take the vaccination. and that has been mocked and ridiculed since the restraint was lifted by YouTube. So now it's like I hear occasionally on, I mentioned this a few months ago, about on a scammer video where the scammer in some Indian countries mocking the person he's trying to scam for being vaccinated. And then I heard it the other day on a video that was randomly playing with this dating coach, male dating coach, talking about some woman that is got all these problems, one of them being her adherence to government narratives, getting vaxxed. And you're like, okay, so you're mocking this part of society that have adhered to what they've been told on the radio and TV to do, and now they're worthy of ridicule by you for it. How interesting.
It worked for me though. I remember being in the supermarket wearing a mask very early on, and the guy looked at me with absolute disdain who wasn't wearing a mask, and I thought to myself, yeah mate, you're right, and I took it off. So it worked for me.
I'm sorry, I walked away. What was that? What was that last comment?
Oh, nothing. We were just talking about people's ability to immediately cuck to whatever government's telling them. And we're paralleling that with the Tyson nonsense exposing that. People pay a lot more attention when it's something they're actually interested in, whereas most people don't really care about space. There's a certain level of detachment. Back in the day, I'd describe it as being the suspension of disbelief. It's like a fantasy world. It's like watching Superman at the cinema. It doesn't affect you. You're not going out to space. You're not going to be an astronaut. Who cares? So you're not going to scrutinise it because who cares? And plus, what are NASA doing when they show you their nonsense? They're not doing anything consequential. It's never interesting. They're growing potatoes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Drinking a bit of water. Showing you how the toilet works. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I'm glad he said what he said about social experiment to see if everyone trusted science, because that's the same thing they did with heterosexual versus homosexual. Homosexuals use a lot of excuses of hormonal differentials and biological aspects, which have to do with science. So during that whole thing, and they did this on the pursuit of legislation, same way they're doing now. The only person that is under the concept, not even the concept, but the reality of being called I wouldn't say homosexual because that's one same gender, but to be of this transgender thing is a hermaphrodite. A hermaphrodite that is born with partial genitalias is the only living human species of a person that can stand on that line and say, I need, legislation to protect me. That's the only ones. So during this whole homosexual thing, they tried to say that it was scientifically proven. Well, that got negated because the real scientists doing biology and hormonal differentials found out that that was a no. No, it isn't, because they're 6'5", 280-pound, well-endowed, athletic, post college football playing, professional football playing, heterosexual. I mean, I have.
She sounds lovely.
Testosterone level guys that still live the lifestyle of a homosexual male. So they cover all the strands of the genealogical, hormonal, scientific, biological things that would be something that would prove that that it has to be scientific. So that got knocked out. Now they're trying to do the same thing here with the transgenderism. But it's a social experiment, just like Neil said about the COVID thing. Because a lot of people don't know what real science is.
Well, apparently you don't need to. Just trust it.
Where the hell is QE? Why is there always these long pauses after I say something or ask a question?
just bees like that sometimes, brother.
And why does the thumbnail on Nathan's thing look like a burnt iron burn on top of a Loeb decal?
I don't know really what you're talking about. I just did a thumbnail with Tyson and Shapiro in it.
No, no, not that. Your avatar thing. Like everybody has their own avatar thing. There's one over here. I think it's for the group, for the whole panel. But it looks, the thing that they use for the angular spherical excess measurement. It looks like an iron burn, like somebody left an iron on it.
Oh, the thing on this in the Hangout. Yeah, it does look like exactly like you've left an iron on a shirt and it's burnt through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And that's what they think is an angle. Okay.
So, Adam, when are we doing the book next?
Well, I'm free this afternoon if you want to do some now.
QE, do you want to do the book?
Or once he's had his breakfast.
Of course.
I'll call him QE Tardy Tom.
Sleeping. First question I get. Book. I suppose.
You missed the good one. Your favorite scientist, Neil deGrasse, was debating with Ben Shapiro about science proving transgenderism in order to get the pursuit of legislative support from the government so that people's freedoms won't be
Who is this guy talking to me? Who is this?
It's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Are you still asleep?
Shut up.
Who does B talking to me? Who this guy?
Yo, but you know what's funny? And I put it on the thing. I forgot. We've been snowed in. Schools are closed, daycare is closed, my job is closed. So I was about to watch one of my favorite Prime Video series off of the book, Reacher, that was played by Tom Cruise, but now they got this big dude that does it. So I was about to watch that, and then I was like, oh, snaps. I got a notification from YouTube that the live was on. That's how come I caught on. Because, typically I'm at work right now. So I said, let me jump on this now.
Yeah. How lucky we are for that.
Your sarcasm proves that you really do enjoy my presence.
That's exactly what it proves.
What time, Nathan?
What time do you want to do the book? Whenever you're ready. I'm not, can go back in 2 or 3 hours, do it now. I'm not fussed.
Well, we ain't doing it now.
Why not?
Because I just woke up.
You're revealing your kink in your armor. All Globetards, alert. Debate QE at between 9 and 10 o'clock Eastern Time, United States Eastern Time. And you definitely win because his brain is still mush because he's not woke.
So an hour to wake up, an hour to get my act together. 9:45, 10, 11:45 my time. Two hours.
Okay.
Get a lot of snow out there.
That sounds good. 2 hours. Yeah, fine.
You get a lot of snow
2
out
hours.
there, Fury.
Shut up, chocolate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm all good. When I'm free most of the days now, so all good.
Go ahead, Chocolate.
Just asking about the snow situation. You got a lot out there?
Didn't get as much as we thought, but we got enough, and it's severe. It's severely cold.
How many you got? Where you at? You said you're in Pennsylvania?
Missouri, for crying out loud.
Oh my God, Missouri. Okay, Missouri. Okay, that's close to a lot of people I know out there. Well, here on the East Coast,
Didn't ask.
Virginia, I'm not answering you. I'm talking to was that Eli? Was that Eli or Chocolate that asked? Eli, you asked?
Wow.
Was it Chocolate that asked? Chocolate, you asked. Okay, I'm talking.
Wow,
No.
man. Wow.
Come on, man. Yo, well, I sound like Mike Tyson every time I listen to the
You knew
thing.
that was going to get you in trouble.
I sound like Mike Tyson.
Every time I listen back myself, I sound like Mike Tyson. So,
How about
but
me? I sound like Sylvester the Cat.
No, you sound like Joe Pesci. They
You Joe
fuck you in the
Pesci,
drive-thru.
bro.
They fuck you in the drive-thru. They fuck you in the drive-thru. But nah, we got like 6 inches.
No swearing.
Sorry, we got like 6 inches. 5 to 6
Wow,
inches.
you just lisped away on that one. Say it
I know,
again,
right?
Sam.
I know, right? A total of 6.
We got about that. Yep, 6.
See, QE said 6, no problem. There's no lisp there.
Yep, got
Let me
6.
hear you say it. Let me hear you say it.
6.
Yep, you sound like
a Sylvester the Cat guy.
Exactly. And Nathan does that on purpose.
Suffering succotage.
Why don't you do something? Entertain me while I wake up. Pull another video up. Do a treatment.
Oh, you missed the sexy fine Sabine. Oh my God, you don't know what she does to me. Wow. A little short hair, flat face,
Jesus.
strong chin bone.
Hey, that.
Yeah.
Nathan, help.
Do another video, you bomba clap.
You can't say that. Only we can say that.
Rasclat.
Rasclat.
Did YouTube actually give you a notification that you can't say that? You got a strike for saying it?
Hey, forget about that. Guess what our Jamaican friend was today? He got banned from politics. We banned him from here. Now he's at Earth Awakenings.
No, I blessed Earth Awakenings with him because I told him before they got rid of him in politics. I said, hey, you know what you should do? There's this server called Earth Awakening.
That's downright dirty. The space between.
Every time. Yeah. Well, while he was talking, I could not get the crab from the mermaid out of my head on the Disney cartoon. I forget the song he sings.
If Ariel is my daughter. Under the sea. Under the sea.
Yes, that's the one.
Life would be better. I show her a thing or two.
Okay.
Not okay. Review. Find something.
Put back on Sabine. I want to hear her voice. It does something to me.
It's starting to worry me with that.
What did he say with that short hair and with that
flat face?
Yeah, that short, dirty hair and the flat face and
strong jawbone structure. I just love it.
Hey, so what?
You put on some makeup today.
What'd she have? What'd she have for us today? And it's Sabine Hassenpfeffer. Look, bring me my Hassenpfeffer.
Could you pass me my Hassenpfeffer oil for my hemorrhoids? That's what Grandma used to use. Hassenpfeffer herbal oil.
I mean, if we're going that route, why don't we just throw in Dr. Michelle Thaler for flavor?
Oh boy!
Like, what the hell, man? What are you talking about?
We got some Michelle Thaler vibes the other day with "Run, Forrest, Run," didn't we?
Yep. Yes, we did. Rocks are your cousins.
Hey, I do have a Rocco for a cousin.
What did she exactly say? She goes, "Whenever you're, on a hill or hiking," what did she say, Chocolate? Can't remember.
When you're on a mountain and you see some rocks, remember, those are your cousins too.
Those were the days, man. Right?
When we go to camp this year, I'm gonna tell my
Band
children. Yeah.
I was just gonna say band camp.
What he said? What? Vinton camp?
Band camp? What camp we going to?
No. And we go to the lake. I'm gonna tell my son, no. Don't throw that. They're your cousins. And then my family be like, what? And I'm gonna tell them the whole thing to let them know just how crazy some people are with PhDs.
Got Ballbusters Saturday. Shut up. Ballbusters Saturday. Coming out of the deep freeze on Saturday. Supposed to be 35, then 50 on Sunday, then 60 on Monday. It could be a shooting day.
Wow, that's a summer day for you.
Talent.
Pretty sure this isn't allowed. I need to see if you have any stones.
What do you guys want to do? Hey, stop backfeeding your mic.
Those are your choices.
P-Rose, stop backfeeding.
Sorry about that.
So what do we want to do? Adam, you still here? Nathan, what you guys want to do?
Book.
Not now. Saturday for Ballbusters. Shut up, Neil.
Didn't we just have a Ballbusters?
Awful. We're gonna have another one.
I never get enough, man. Ballbusters, come on. What are you talking about, Nathan?
We have to do this because soon it's coming that the Saturdays are going to be all taken up. So we got to do Ballbusters when I get the chance.
Oh, I see. When it's convenient for you, we all got to be there. I agree.
Not convenient. Just remember, each month on the first Saturday and second Saturday month, it's archery time, dudes. It's shooting. As soon as the weather turns.
Yeah, because the weather be good. Be good to be out there doing that. Hey, QE, my son got 2 archery little toy things. He had that we gave him. One that's pretty pathetic to me, but the other one is Uncle gave him was pretty cool. And I told him about you. I said, I got a guy that I know that I talk to sometimes on that show you be listening to, and he's a real archer. He's like, for real? Like, yeah, I never saw him shoot, but he says he can shoot.
Are you good enough to shoot an apple off someone's head?
Say again?
Are you good enough to shoot an apple off someone's head?
I thought, yes. Yeah. In fact, it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because a tournament last year called R100, through the tournament, and then you come up to a deer, right? that is balancing an apple on his nose at 25 yards. So everyone that goes through there every year, it's one of those novelty type of targets. Because if you miss, you bust it. You're busting arrows, right? So every year we go up or we do that. Now this was the second year we went up. I didn't shoot it the first year because I didn't have that many arrows. I didn't want to bust one, so I said, this year that apple's that's its ass. Ass, man. So guess
I got a question.
Guess what?
Yeah, I got a question. Would you, let's say the intensity of anxiety is natural, but would you think you can do that if a human being had an apple on their head versus a fake two-dimensional deer with an apple on his head? No hold on his nose, you know what I mean?
What do you think?
Kind of that intensity. No, I'm just saying, you'd probably kill somebody, right? Because it would be a different level of...
It depends on who was balancing.
Yeah, that would depend, right? I guess that would add a little factor of, how would you say, not nervousness, but it would up the game. Yeah. You know what I'd probably do? I'd shoot high.
Depending on whoever you were, it either increase your focus or make you a nervous wreck.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's face it, if it was one of your kids, you're hitting that apple. If it's Jet Panda, start the funeral.
I wouldn't shoot. That's not true. I would not shoot somebody like that. Unless it was...
I'm just saying, Oh, he'd definitely start the funeral procession.
McToon or fight the tight shirt. You definitely catch him in the ass, right in the ass. Apple's not even...
Well, if it's McToon, you say, forget about the guns. Here's my arrow.
Oh, by the way, Adam, have you done any communication? Get that video.
Oh no, I forgot. I'll do it now. Actually, 2 minutes.
Yeah, do it now. Thanks.
Oh shit! Secret missions.
I put that Michelle Thaler quote in Skype if you want it.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey, Refractive. So, hey, no, I heard his voice and I thought about that guy, Tagler or whatever. The Danny Five, whatever. The Indian guy. I guess he's Indian or whatever. And his Cartesian coordinates between the stars type of angle measurements. And you were interjecting, but it was like him and Nathan were going back so far. I don't know if he heard or was purposely ignoring you, but you was trying to tell him that it's still the same thing.
Right. Well, anytime you try to apply the aspect of a Cartesian plane to reality, it will be done from your eye level. And angles come from an origin on a Cartesian plane.
And that's the most you got to say about it right now than you had the chance to during that back and forth.
He didn't argue with that. He accepted that. Yeah, he did not put up an argument against that. He accepts that.
Okay, then. Hell, welcome to Flat Earth. Nathan?
Yeah?
Are you going to play anything?
Like what?
Oh, okay. The silence is just drooling. It's
He's
like...
playing Fortnite, man. He's playing Fortnite.
No, I'm not.
No.
Going around out shortly.
You should try out Marvel Rivals, Nathan. It's a lot of fun. And it's free.
Okie dokie.
That'll
So we're going to
definitely
reconvene
get
in a couple of
around
hours,
out.
right? We're going to reconvene in a couple of hours. I'll take that as a yes.
QE. Hello, Adam. QE. Hello.
Yeah, well, they've already said that. So yeah, that's fine.
Responding to the last request I was given. Just
6 p.m.
I'm good. I'm free now. I'm actually doing stuff now anyway. But yeah, whenever you guys.
Well, QE saying a couple of hours. So if we say 6 o'clock. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.